And as people are coming in, I just want to remind everyone that they can put their questions in the Q&A section, not the chat. We'll try and get to anything that's put in the chat, but there's no guarantees. It's just there for, more informal discussion. Any questions that are put in the Q&A, we'll get to them either typing in an answer or live at the end of the webinar. So just make sure that if you have any questions, you put them in the Q&A section. Looks like we've got a fair amount of responses coming in. I'll leave it up for just a little bit longer as we wait for people to join. We've still got some more people joining. So for those of you who have joined a little later, we just want to remind you guys to put any questions you have in the Q&A section. That'll make it a lot easier to answer. So don't put them in the chat, put them in the Q&A, and we'll answer them as quickly as we can. And for any other questions, we'll answer them live if there's time permitting at the end of the webinar. We're not going to be taking live questions from users, so we won't be unmuting anyone or using the raise hand feature for this webinar. Got a couple people who haven't answered the poll yet. If you see it and you want to see if you can answer which industry you're coming from, that'll give us some information about the people we have joining us in the webinar. I'll leave it up for just a couple more minutes. We're getting some more responses. And for those of you who've answered other, if you want to put that in the chat, you're welcome to do that, just as information for everyone who is joining and wants to see what kind of other industries we have interested in computer vision. Okay, I'm going to end it now. And let's see what we have. A lot of others. So you can put what kind of other industry you have in the chat. That would be interesting to know. Looks like a fair amount of smart city security and commercial retail. A good distribution here, which shows that computer vision can impact a lot of different fields. So that's wonderful. Okay, I'm going to pass things over to Scott to kick off the webinar.
Thank you, Lila. I'll grab the screen in a moment. All right, there we go. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so thank you everybody for joining us. There we go. Apologies for the fingering the screen a little bit. So I'll get into the agenda in a moment. So first of all, very excited to announce a partnership with AlwaysAI and Eyecloud. We'll be talking about not only the partnership, how we think it really will impact computer vision on the edge, and then ultimately we'll talk about some of the power bundles that we're offering together, discounted products that'll help you get started. But first of all, let me quickly introduce and thank the other panelists. So Lila, thank you for running the show. We appreciate it. I'm also joined by Dale Hitt, who is the Vice President of Marketing at Eyecloud. Welcome, Dale, and thank you. And then Abhijeet Bhatikar from Accenture, the DOC, one of the innovation centers, centers at Accenture. Gentlemen, welcome. Thanks for joining this morning.
Great to be here, Scott. Thanks.
Yep. Thanks. Same here.
Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? So we'll talk about a path to production with AlwaysAI and Eyecloud. How can we really help accelerate time to market, time to production for your computer vision projects on the edge? And then why computer vision on the edge, why it should be on your radar if it isn't already. Dale will spend time on this really, really helpful way to look at edge dynamics and why you should really care. AB will go through an application of AlwaysAI and iCloud working together. And then we'll hand it over back to Lila for some Q&A, and we have another couple of panelists that will help answer questions live. So let me jump into it. All right, so AlwaysAI, I want to talk about the AlwaysAI platform for just a moment. And so AlwaysAI was really built to help developers deliver demonstrable results. So if you have a business need, a project you're working on or considering, and you don't have infinite resources and infinite time, you're in the right place. We can help, and this is what we built the platform for. How do we do that? We have a very specific workflow that really focuses on what matters in getting a project into production. So with any tooling, with any project, you always have a lot of variables, a lot of places to go off the rails. And what we try to do is constrain those where you want to be constrained, so you have a very short line of sight to getting into production. And I'll talk about more of that in detail in just a moment. And in particular, where AlwaysAI and iCloud fit together to produce a really tight loop in that get to production process. So there are two components to the platform. There's the basic, AlwaysAI Basic, and this is really for rapid prototyping of a wide variety of computer vision applications. You can run these develop and run these applications on your edge device or your laptop. Either works fine. We have an extensive model catalog, a lot of application templates to get started. Not all of you will start with prototyping. Many of you will. We have a very vibrant community using BASIC, including a lot of professional developers, a lot of educators, and a lot of learners. So it's really a fairly broad section of folks. We have a very active Discord community that if you use AlwaysAI Basic, I would encourage you to join Discord. There's a lot of community help there, a lot of people working together to solve problems. AlwaysAI Premium is where you take your project to production. So it's how you implement and deploy physical space analytics, video analytics. There's a ton of functionality out of the box. It can all be extended. I'll talk about some of the more important pieces here, including once you're on the premium platform, you're generating production data that you can use to retrain models, a true production class system. All right, so I'm going to talk about the workflow here, and I'll spend some time on this. I won't go. I promise I will try not to go too quickly through it, and we can answer questions at the end. So, for many of you, not all, you'll start by prototyping, getting something working. And our goal with this workflow, remember, I talked about focus, the things that matter. We spent a lot of time on the workflow helping you move, making sure you're moving stage to stage, because if you're not successfully and efficiently moving stage to stage, you're not going to get in production, right? So step one for many, but not all of you, is going to be prototyping, rapid prototyping, get something working. This is the best place to start if you're not sure whether your use case is really going to work for computer vision. It helps you run through options very quickly. It helps you lay down basic benchmarks for accuracy, for performance, and experiment a little bit with different approaches to your basic pipeline, your basic model and application pipeline. So get something working quickly. The components of the platform that apply here are really our catalog of pre-trained models and application templates. Now, that's great, but none of us have run into a project that goes to production using a pre-trained model. So step two is maybe the most important and most overlooked place here, and it's where iCloud and AlwaysAI together really make a difference. So as quickly as possible, you want to get that prototype into a production-like environment. So what does that mean? It means as close as possible to your production hardware. So, for example, using iCloud's production grade appliances, the appliances that are actually going to generate the data that your model is doing inferencing on, that your application is going to run on. Why do you want to do that? It's because machine learning models, computer vision models are very sensitive to specific conditions, lighting conditions, camera angles, et cetera. So you want to take that basic prototype, get your production rig set up in the environment where you're going to be doing the inferencing, start generating production quality data, image data, that you can then use to retrain your model and redeploy. So AlwaysAI has an end-to-end pipeline for doing this. You literally set the camera up, put AlwaysAI on it. You start generating data. We have a utility that does this. The data runs into our model retraining toolkit. You retrain your model, you redeploy. So it's really very straightforward, very tight. Again, like I said, things that matter, things that get you to production quickly with a quality product, clear line of sight to making a difference for your business. So once you've done that, step 3 and 4 are fairly straightforward. So step 3 is really, you need to get additional cameras possibly in production, maybe additional locations. You need to get your analytics for the data stream up and flowing. That's all relatively straightforward with our platform. In fact, we have a utility that allows you to define zones of interest visually. So you take a video stream, you use your mouse and you draw on the video stream, boom, you have a region of interest to be able to tell your analytics system, people are going in, people are going out, there's so many people in, so many people out. So get your analytics flowing, and then ultimately, a step a lot of people forget, number 4, is you are generating production data while you're in production as well. So doing quality control on your model, more data, back into the retraining pipeline, refine the model, it simply keeps going. So this is a closed loop end-to-end system. And iCloud, as you can tell, is a really important piece of it because it allows you to get to that number 2 step as quickly as possible, where you're generating true production data with your true production hardware. So that is the AlwaysAI system. I'm going to turn it over to Dale now to talk about iCloud and computer vision on the edge. And Lila, maybe we're going to do a poll first, though.
Yes, let's do one more poll. This one is to get an idea of how you all run your computer vision applications. So you should be seeing that now, either in a cloud server, in an edge server, on an edge device, or maybe you don't even have computer vision applications up and running yet, and this is why you're here in the webinar today. Okay, we're about a little over halfway there. Got about 2/3 of you all answered. I'll wait a little bit longer to see if we can get the last few people answering. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now and share. So a lot of you are running them on an edge device, or you don't have a computer vision application up and running yet. So that's great that you're here because we're all about edge device running, and we'd love to help you develop some computer vision applications. So now I'm going to hand things over to Dale. There we go.
Not getting control. There we go.
There you go.
Got it. All right. So thanks, Scott, for introing iCloud. We're really about delivering OpenAI vision appliances for health and safety applications. We're headquartered in Silicon Valley, but we have manufacturing facilities in China and some development facilities in Romania. So international company. Our expertise is in delivering production AI cameras with AI inference acceleration and custom sensor tuning and optical solutions that go along with it. So my personal experience, I've been in Silicon Valley for decades, working on visual intelligence market development with companies like NVIDIA and Intel and Xilinx and some of the other pioneers in this area. So I'm really here to help get your computer vision application into production while avoiding some critical pitfalls that some people bump into as they get into using machine learning inference for their computer vision applications. So let's jump in. What I want to do here is sort of define the terminology I'm going to use with cloud versus edge, because some industries use it a little differently. So I'm going to be specific here. When I talk about cloud or cloud computing, I'm really talking about using AWS or GCP or Azure for your compute and your storage and data access, versus when I talk about the edge, I'm really talking about running your inference and your vision applications in the device itself or possibly in a server. We'll get into that. So in the cloud world, you're really renting your compute and storage resources from Amazon, whereas on the edge, you own that device, you own that compute, and you pay for it once. I just want to make that definition up front so we can get into this. So I'll start with an example of one of our customers and how they evolved their computer vision application, what drove their decisions. So this particular application is in the construction PPE compliance space. So they're monitoring the workers to make sure that they're complying with the wearing of their protection devices, which is important for their safety, but there's also OSHA penalties and fines if they don't do it. So they're actually a downside. Besides dying, there's a downside to the company for workers not complying. So there's value in providing continuous coverage of PPE compliance. And the customer started out doing a POC in the cloud, doing training in the cloud as most people do to access massive amounts of storage and compute to get it done quickly. And then using a dumb camera at the edge to aggregate some of the data that they use for their training. But what they found in these construction sites was these construction sites weren't built out yet. They often didn't have a reliable internet connection that could be depended on, and it wasn't fiber to the building yet, so it wasn't a lot of bandwidth available. So they quickly moved as they went out in the field and wanted to deploy more than one camera, which they could do using a 3G connection. But when they wanted to deploy more than one camera, they needed to put a server on site to handle the compute and the bandwidth that was coming off these cameras. But the problem that they bumped into when they deployed these servers on site was they had to maintain them, they had to keep them updated, but also they had to scale them up and down as they deployed, as they built another floor to the building, they'd have to deploy a bunch more cameras. And then when they stopped using a different floor, they would, decommission a bunch of cameras. So if they wanted to optimize, they would have to scale up and scale down the servers along with it. So they really wanted to get to a point where the cameras scaled with the compute in them, so they didn't have to manage these servers and waste all the money from scaling up and scaling down servers on location. So they moved their application completely, the compute and the storage, into the camera, so that their application scaled up and scaled down as they increased and decreased the number of cameras on location at the construction site. So this was the sort of the motivator that drove this particular application to the edge. And it's a great example of what you run into as you deploy your application in the real world. And I'll get into some other interesting pitfalls that people run into as you deploy these vision applications, starting out in the cloud, which is infinitely scalable and flexible, but comes with a cost and some other constraints that many applications can't deal with. So the first one that everybody, I think, has to deal with is the cost of deploying these applications over time. And what you'll find is if you're deploying 10 cameras doing inference, let's say they're all 4K cameras, it's a lot of bandwidth up to the cloud, but that takes a lot of processing in AWS, and AWS, you're renting processing and storage from AWS, and you'll see for 10 cameras, you're paying about 10 grand a year, $1,000 per camera for the processing and storage and access that you need to run your application in the cloud in AWS. So it's a fairly expensive proposition annualized versus, and there's a dumb camera cost, hardware cost of deploying just 10 dumb cameras out at the edge to gather those video streams, versus the edge computing case where the cameras are slightly more expensive because they have the compute built into them to process the video streams, do the inference, do the application running at the edge. But you pay for that once, and there isn't any ongoing, $10,000 or $1,000 per year, per stream, per camera. So their ROI is really big, moving your intelligence into the camera if you can do so. So there's a big return on investment, almost immediate return on investment for doing that kind of porting. So, and these are real numbers. It's the numbers are from AWS computing off of 4K video streams, 10 devices. So it's it adds up as you scale, to thousands or millions of devices. That just gets bigger and bigger savings. So, as Jensen would say, the more you buy, the more you save. The next important thing to be aware of when you're doing cloud computing is latency. If you need real-time response, running your inference application in the cloud just is a non-starter. I mean, for example, AWS thinks very low latency for them is 3 to 4 seconds, which if you're trying to feed a high-speed assembly line, or your the self-driving car is the most well-known example, where if you took 3 or 4 seconds to make a decision, you crash. So it's not a good thing to do. So the other piece of that is it's 3 to 4 seconds, but this is non-deterministic latencies. So it can vary greatly depending on how your packets are routed through the network, server loading, and a bunch of other factors go into what that response time actually turns out to be, versus when you have your application running in the device, you are the sole controller of that device. There is no network determinism. There's no loading issues. You control it, and you get a very deterministic response time out of the device on the order of 30 milliseconds versus 3,000 or 4,000 milliseconds. So it's a couple orders of magnitude better performance, and it's deterministic performance. If you have any kind of time critical constraints on your application, running out on the edge is an imperative. The next one that I mentioned before is bandwidth. So today bandwidth is getting less and less expensive, but there are still a lot of application areas where bandwidth, A is expensive, but B can be unreliable, or C, just not enough bandwidth available to run multiple video streams continuously over them reliably. So if you move the intelligence into the device, you can set your application up so you don't require zero bandwidth or very little bandwidth, depending on what your situation is. And I want to sort of wrap this up and indicate that the requirements of your application sort of dictate how much you move to the edge and what you move to the edge, and where these constraints affect you. But there'll be overlaps between some even, I didn't mention this before, but privacy for some application areas is important for medical or even high security. People don't want to have their video sent out over the Ethernet or internet, where it could be intercepted by hostile entities. So they demand that it's all processed on site, and this is another factor that goes into the edge decision. But different applications have different mixes of this, and any one of these can be sufficient to drive the need to implement your application on the edge. So with that, I'd like to transition over to AB, where he's going to demo the AlwaysAI Plus iCloud OpenNCC cameras in action.
Thank you, Dale, and Happy New Year to all the attendees. So, Laila, can you go to the previous slide? Yeah. So my name is Abhijeet, and I work in Accenture, the dock in Ireland, where it's an innovation center. We have more than 250 different kinds of cross-industry problem solvers, and we work in a very collaborative and multidisciplinary environment to solve complex problems for the clients. So, so what I'm going to demonstrate here is uh, how we could use Always AI and the iCloud camera to move to production very quickly using the Always AI platform. So using Always AI platform, I've been very active with Always AI in the community, and I find this platform very interesting, and it cuts down all the like the setup effort, and then the only developer can focus on the business logic and try to create applications and get started very quickly. So next slide. So what we are doing here today is like a package detection and monitoring system. So nowadays for the Christmas, I believe you guys will order a lot of gifts uh, for your beloved ones, and they were being delivered at your doorstep. So it would be nice, like you get a notification when this kind of packages get delivered at your doorstep, and also get alerted if somebody tries to steal them as well. So all this system, what we tried to develop here, it was done within a week using Always AI, because it cuts down all the setup efforts and all the bootstrapping, uh, and saves all that time. And I can only focus on doing the application development and doing the like preparing your model and all that. So, uh, so all this is running at the edge. So there's no internet involved. So everything is so your privacy and all everything is safe. So there's no data going on the internet. So so this is the kind of flow here. You do some data collection there. Then based on the data what you collected from there's a variation of data, like you see the data is being collected from various angles, various distance, and then you annotate that data. Once you have this annotated data, you feed that annotated data into a model training pipeline, which Always AI has. Once you have that model done, you can test it out using the simple boilerplate application and see if the model is satisfactory working for you. And then if you are happy with that, then you move to the application development, build your business logic there, and then you can deploy that in deployment using the as Scott highlighted. If you have the Always AI Premium, or you can even use. In my case, I used Balina. Balina is is an IoT platform, which it is you can deploy applications remotely and also do over the air. So next slide. So since based in Ireland, so it's already night here. So I thought that I would not do a live demo because most of my data set which I collected was during the day. So I tried to do a video all of that, and I'm going to walk through that video. And there's an extensive bigger video as well on the link will be shared after the webinar to all the attendees. So yeah, Leila. So this is the Balina Cloud platform. So this is how you will see when you have an Balina application created. And this is the IP address of the edge device. We copy that and you invoke it to see what's going on in the camera. So yes, so this is what the iCloud camera sees in the platform. And this is a mobile app. So can you pause, Lila? So this is the mobile app. This mobile app will give you an alert what happens with the packages, whether the package has been delivered, if new packages kick in, or when the package has been moved or removed, or if the package was not visible for some time, and within there's a like we have we have in this application, the logic is that if within that time, there's a timer, if it is not visible, and if it is gets visible within that time, there will be a false alarm. So it detects false alarm. So it will not just trigger that, but in our application, we'll also show you how it is there. So yeah, so you see, I place a package there. You see an alert in your mobile phone. So the package is there. And then I will try to remove it momentarily. And you see a warning there. And I just keep it just to simulate that. And you see that it tells that it is there in that area. It is still there. Then I take it away. And then it tells you packages maybe have removed. And once it's sure that timeout has expired, it will send you an alert. Definitely the package has been removed. So if somebody tries to remove it, you will get an alert. Now, so if you have the package, new package gets delivered and you have this package in front of you, and then another package, I try to keep another package there. Yes, and they see an alert that more packages have arrived. And then I will take one of them, and then it tells you that packages maybe have removed. So it waits for the timer to make sure that it has been definitely removed. And then you get uh, the alert that it has been definitely removed. So as you see, this application was just built within a week. So that is a huge take, because if you try to build this application from scratch, it will definitely take more than a week, because you have to set up all the dependent libraries and all the full pipeline. It takes a lot of time. So that development effort is being cut by AlwaysAI. So can you go back to the slide, please? So this is the overall architecture, what I had for the demo. So there's an open NCC camera there. And the open NCC camera has a Myriad X processor, which does the acceleration of the model we have. And this is connected via USB to a Raspberry Pi. The Raspberry Pi is having the AlwaysAI platform. So it has a Balina's image there. So Balina, when you create a device in Balina Cloud, it gives you a base image, and which has all the demands, the ways we can communicate to the Balina Cloud for doing the auto updates, for pushing the application. But rest of the full application does not interact with Balina at all. So everything works within that same local network. So AlwaysAI and AlwaysAI deploys all this application in the form of Docker containers. And there's OpenVINO toolkit, which makes it possible to run this model on the OpenNCC camera. The version of OpenNCC camera I'm using for this application does not have a Raspberry Pi built in, but there's a version of OpenNCC camera called the IPC version, which has a Raspberry Pi compute module built in. So you can, there are two blocks there. So the two blocks can actually be one block. So it will be one appliance, a standalone appliance, which can run the model, the AlwaysAI, the camera, everything in one box. And it can even communicate to Balina and any other external services if you want to weave it together. In this application, I'm using a mobile app. This mobile app talks to the Raspberry Pi using MQTT protocol, so that it gets these notifications. Like it is subscribed. It's like a public pops up mechanism. So that's how the mobile app works. We'll go in more detail in this in the hacky hours, and definitely you can reach out to Discord to know more about it. So this is the overall flow. Scott covered it in brief during his slides, but I'm gonna just go in a little more detail, just focusing on this app. So as we said, we gather a lot of data. We train that model using this data after annotating the data. Then we test that model using a sample app when you configure a project in the AlwaysAI platform. Once you are definitely sure and you're satisfied whether this model looks okay, we proceed to convert that model into an open Vino format. And what I mean by an open Vino format is, so the model which we train by default cannot directly run, cannot directly optimally run on the AlwaysAI camera or the Intel Myriad X. So you have to convert that into an open Vino toolkit. So once you have that, so that this tooling is also integrated in the AlwaysAI CLI, so in the form of Docker containers, and then you publish this model into the AlwaysAI cloud. The benefit of publishing this model into the cloud, what it brings it, you can make different applications, maybe on a laptop, maybe on your different application, different edge devices. So it can pull it from the AlwaysAI cloud. You don't have to manually copy it onto the edge devices. You can definitely do that as well using the local version, but if you are 100% sure that you want to do it in production, it will be always having it in the cloud. It will be better because it will pull it once for all and then it's done. Then there's no need to talk to the cloud. Then you create your business, basically create your app using your business logic, whatever. So in this case, it was a parcel detection. You might create a model for detection of maybe some like a CCTV security camera. You might seeing like somebody's coming from your back door, or like from your garden or something. You can detect people and something like that. So you can create any app. In this case, I'm using Balena to deploy this. So Balena is currently free. So you can use this app, create it into a Docker container, push it into a Balena cloud, and then Balena will push it to the Raspberry Pi, which has the base image from Balena. Or in this case, if you're using an IPC version of the camera of Eyecloud, it can push it to that as well. And then it gets automatically deployed. So this full flow becomes so, and you can create more devices, and this can scale big time. So, so this is how the full application overall flow was built in. So if you have questions, please put it on the Q&A. So the GitHub repo will give you the slides. Though there's a GitHub repository of this full code, and there's a model also uploaded on that. So feel free to try it. Once we have the iCloud camera, it should be easy to try it out. So there's a extensive full demo of this, how this pulls the images from the cloud. So there's a URL for that. And that is the support resources on Discord and the email address for AlwaysAI. So I'm available on Discord if you want to talk to me. And I will be happy to help you guys. So that's it from my side. And I'll pass it to Scott, who will be talking about the bundles.
Great. Thanks, AB. That was fantastic. Excuse me.
Thank you.
So Lila, I think I'm just going to have you retain control of the screen, right? We really only have a few slides. So I want to spend a few minutes talking about, there's a set of Power Pack bundles that along with iCloud we're announcing today. Yeah, just stay there if you don't mind. And we have, what the bundles are is they're really targeted as a kind of a quick start. How do you get into production fast, right? So that's the theme of all the work we're doing together, and the Power Bundles really move that forward. So it's a combination, each Power Bundle is a combination of hands-on workshops, custom model training support. We know you're going to need to retrain models, so we can help, whether that's us on the phone or on a video with you, or simply answering questions. Enterprise support with some SLA coverage. So if things go off the rails, we are absolutely here. You can get on the phone with our developers. And then one or more production ready open NCC appliances. So the appliances Dale talked about. So you put this all together, and it's a great way to go from either zero to production, or if you have, I guess I encourage you, if you have a cloud application, a cloud computer application, this would be fantastic, because again, then we can work to, we will work with you to get your models, your applications ported over to the edge, up and running on the iCloud cameras, and you'll just be moving. So there are really three levels of bundles. There's a starter bundle, which is about $2,000, and again, it includes all the components here, some professional services, some workshop support, and a camera. There's a middle, and then there's a higher end bundle, an enterprise level bundle, which includes multiple cameras, more support, more workshops for larger teams at around $10,000. So we would love to hear from you if you have interest in this. We'll walk you through more details. We have coupon codes available for discounts. And so every component of the bundle is discounted because we think it's valuable. So Lila, next steps. Thank you.
Yes, great. Yeah, so as Scott mentioned, the next steps are to sign up for AlwaysAI, give us a try, see how easy it is to develop your applications. If you would like to find out more about the bundles, you can go to this link here, this alwaysai.co/community/iCloud, and you can learn more about the iCloud cameras themselves on openncc.com. If you are interested in getting a bundle, a Power Pack bundle, you can email support@alwaysai.co. And as AB mentioned earlier, on Discord, we're happy to answer any additional questions you might have. And finally, we have lots of resources on our blog, on our webpage, on Discord itself. So if you go to alwaysai.co/blog, you'll find lots of tutorials, different starter applications you can try, different use cases. Usually if somebody has a question on Discord about how to use something or if something's possible, there's a blog for that. There's a GitHub repo for that. Another link that you'll be able to find if you go to AB's GitHub is also the AlwaysAI GitHub. There's lots of starter apps on that. We have one more poll that we wanted to share with you, and I will put that up while we're just seeing if there's any last minute questions that have come in. So this last poll is just to find out a little bit more about you as individuals and your job responsibilities. So if you can answer this, we would love to know more about the community that's interested in AlwaysAI and iCloud. Okay, it looks like about 2/3 of you have responded. I think we'll call it there. It looks like a lot of other. So again, I wonder what are these categories? If you want to put it in the chat, what are your other job titles that maybe we didn't think of to include here?
You want to share the results, Lynn?
Yes, thank you. A fair amount of software engineers and model engineers, that's great. And also DevOps, web development, marketing. I'm curious to see what are the other job titles you guys have. Some of the questions that have come in are what type of device was AB using, and it was a Raspberry Pi, and what kind of devices are supported with AlwaysAI. You can find a list of all of our supported devices on our documentation page. It's alwaysai.co, and then you go to docs. We support NVIDIA Jetson Nano, the NVIDIA Xavier NX, Raspberry Pis, Tinkerboard, Dragonboard. So a fair amount of diversity there. Go ahead and check that out.
Yeah, I would simply add, Lila, that none of those are really production.
That's true.
So
that's true, and that's why the iCloud camera is pretty nifty.
Correct.
You know, you can prototype on any of those devices, or get used to AlwaysAI, and then reach out to us when you're ready to upgrade to iCloud and get ready for production. So again, another question is how can you get this Power Pack bundle? Really by signing up for AlwaysAI, first step, and then reaching out to us that you're interested. We have discount coupons for the cameras themselves as well as the AlwaysAI support. So if you go through us to get your iCloud camera, you will have a discount on that.
Yeah, and the sign up for Always AI is free. So
Yes, yeah, signing up is free. That's a very good point. Yes, there's all of the application development you can find online. We have tutorials, and it's completely free to sign up for an account. You just need an email. And then reach out to support@alwaysai.co if you're interested in that Power Pack bundle. Let's see.
and if you're interested in the AI cameras, you can get more information and details at openncc.com.
Yep.
Yes, yes. And there's another question here that is a good one. How is this different than other Edge services like Microsoft Edge and AWS? First of all, I think the ability to develop the computer vision application itself is something that's unique to Always AI. Everything is very modular. There's a lot of support all the way from model training to actually building the apps, changing your models, changing the type of computer vision core service you want to use. And then the integration with the iCloud camera is all built in. So you only need one set of tools to get that full pipeline. That's my take, Scott or Steve or Tiger, if anyone wants to add to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to. Sorry,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So one thing what I want to add here is as just to add more to what Lila said as well. So you can run Always AI even on Azure and AWS Azure Edge or AWS Greengrass as well. So you can run that in the form of a Edge workload. So, so Always AI is very flexible. So it just needs a Linux. It just needs whatever is you can run Docker containers, right? So that makes it very flexible. So what benefit you get with using Always AI is all the underlying functionality of OpenCV and all is all wrapped around with APIs. That way you don't have to do a lot of like a lot of writing. The code, the size of the code is very less. So you just use the library and then you can write a lot of things. Like to give you some of the Centroid tracker, for example, there's an API called Centroid tracker, and then you just need to update the frames. So if you try to use it, using your own Python code, it will be a bunch of lines of code. So that's what it is different in. So Scott, you want to add something?
Yeah, I think ultimately it comes down to focus, right? So most of the tooling that you talked about and that we've run into has its DNA as research tooling, which is super cool and it allows you to do great science projects. We really build Always AI to not be involved in science projects. So to be a very practical path to production, because we believe, again, if you've been involved with getting any type of software project to production, not computer vision related, anything, it's largely about sort of cutting down the variables and focusing to get something very direct built. And so that's who we cater to, right? So there's all these things you have to learn, all these things you have to set up, a lot of degrees of freedom you have, 80% of which frankly don't matter to getting your application in production. So we just pipeline the whole thing. We make it straightforward. To AB's point, there's a lot of flexibility under the hood if you care to go there, but you really don't need to. So what we hear from our users a lot is, this is great. I actually got my stuff built and working and it's good and it's in production, as opposed to I'm still struggling on bulletin boards trying to find answers to my questions. And I can't get Intel to answer me. I can't get, NVIDIA to answer me. You guys not only help, but the stuff it just works. It's really straightforward. So we try to simplify the whole process. Hopefully,
you need production hardware. We supply the volume production hardware that you need to.
Absolutely, which is one place early on. We find a lot of people get stuck because it is a discipline that most developers don't know anything about. So if you use iCloud, not only does it work with our stuff, you have a great looking piece of hardware that you can demo your application to whoever you want. It'll simply work out of the box. You don't have to worry about integration problems, custom stuff. it's one part of it that you have world-class performance at the edge without having to do anything except enter the coupon code.
Yes, definitely. Yes, and I'm getting a lot of questions about where can we see the recording of this webinar, and all of our recordings for past webinars, our hacky hours, are all on YouTube on the AlwaysAI channel. And I will post on our Discord channel the all the links that AB had for his GitHub, just as an extra level of detail. But if you head over to alwaysai.co, all of the resources, all of the links you'll need will be there. And if you search for AlwaysAI on any of our media channels, GitHub, on YouTube, anywhere, we're AlwaysAI. So that's always easy to remember. I see one question: is there an offer for students? It's not specifically for students, but we have promotion codes for different bundles and different packages. So just reach out to us at support@alwaysai.co, and we'll work with you and see what package is right for you. There's also a fair amount of questions on model training, and I would recommend that you go to our Discord channel, and all of our machine learning engineers are there. If you have very specific questions about your use case, your intended use case, that would be a place to go to answer those, because it's really variable. Different projects will have different use cases, and those will really dictate what your model needs to do and how we can help you with data collection and data annotation.
And we do a very straightforward visual interface for the model training.
Yeah.
And so it, again, like everything, it pipelines your experience, right? So you can do a lot of stuff very flexibly, but often we find where people get stuck with model training is, how do I set up? How do I move stage to stage? What do I do here? What do I do here? We wrap it in a visual interface, and it's drop dead simple to train your models. I think the hardest part is generating, like we talked about, generating the data you're going to retrain those models on, which iCloud can help. That's the place you want to spend your time. The training itself ends up being fairly push button.
Yes, yes, yeah. And I think another point to that is the workflow we have in place really makes it easy to iterate, as AB had in that slide, the data collection, annotation, training, test. You know, that process is pretty easy, and that way you can tweak your model as much as you need to in a fast, iterative fashion without having to delay going to production that much more. So the process is as painless as can be. Okay, great. I think we're about out of time. Any specific questions you have on model training, again, please head to Discord. We can help you better there. If you have any other specific questions, AlwaysAI, getting up and running, we'd love to have you there and help you get started. And I think with that, I'll end the webinar. And thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. We hope to see you using our platform and our cameras soon. Get your computer vision applications out into the world.
Thanks, Lila. Thanks, everybody. The LAB, appreciate it.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks for joining. Bye.